What's that? Yeah, I like it.
I
Okay,
felt
we're
like it.
on.
All
Um,
right. Cool.
you got your timer on?
Yeah, I'll wait till we get started.
All right, guys, we are talking about guy stuff, going through my book 68, and we forgot number 5 last week, which is do be gay friendly. So, Jeff, what do you think about this?
Uh, I think
Did you
it's
start? Did you start
massive.
your timer?
Oh, yes, no,
Okay.
sorry. So we're running 10 minutes a topic maximum.
Yeah, and I think Jeff, you're doing this to me because I bird walk and I'm all over the place, and so I may spend a minute on one and then like an hour on the other. So I think this is a good
Yeah.
idea.
Is that what that's called? Bird walking? Because I'm a master of bird walking. I didn't realize it had a name. That's kind of cool. I like
Yeah, you know, have you ever seen birds walk? Oh, especially pigeons? They just aimlessly, just all over the place.
that. No, I've
Yeah,
never.
that's the inside of my head.
I've
If you
seen
know
it,
me.
but I've never
Yeah.
thought of that analogy. Anyway, so being gay friendly, I've got a little story that goes along with this. So the first time, because I grew up in a kind of in a really it's a beautiful part of East Coast Australia. It's near Byron Bay, and
Hmm.
it's also near a really alternate hippie town called Nimbin. So both see, but the town I grew up in is only half an hour from both of those places. But there's a big meat works like an abattoir, and that gives all the town their work. And there's like this is no word of a lie. There's freaking bumper stickers. Like you'd be driving around town, and I just say like eat more beef or vegetarians suck or like
Hmm.
and it has like rodeos and all. So it's a very obviously clearly statistics will show there's gay people that live there, but did you ever hear about one? Like no way. And so I actually grew up, you're kind of typical stupid alpha male where if you don't know anything about something you're scared of it, right?
Right, right.
um, and then I was actually working using my trade out of school, which is wall and floor tiling, and I was working years later, like I was literally 20, I think I was 25, in this desert town, and it was a mining town, so it was a super redneck kind of, I think I've got a bit of redneck in me, town anyway, and I had to go do this quote for a potential job, and it was my girlfriend at the time, it was one of her colleagues who was a school teacher, and he was gay, and everyone knew he was gay, and that was fine. And I did not like him, but I still had that thing of like, I'm scared of what I don't know. And I remember driving to do a quote at his place,
Hmm.
and I remember I was shitting myself. I was freaked out that I was going into this gay couple's
Mm.
house, and it was
Right,
in my
right.
head. It was, I was going to like get raped or something. It was ridiculous, like the
Yeah.
fear
Hey,
around it.
oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you know, we
No?
only have a minute now left because you just took the 9. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what? I think that's what's funny is that a lot of heterosexual men, well, obviously it's fear, but it's funny that when you um, have a gay friend or if you are in a gay circle, you for some reason assume they're even going to be attracted to you, and you have this fear
Yeah, which
like,
is which
yeah,
is exactly what you touched on in the book. You're like, what? They're not attracted to everyone. It's
right, just because you're a
ridiculous.
guy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And you know, this isn't so much about sexual orientation. When I was writing it, it's more about judgment. So the
No,
big
yeah,
thing, you know, the big thing now. I just went to this retreat called Revitalize, and it's a lot about the kind of foods we eat. And so, you know, there's a people judge you now on what kind of foods you eat. So if you're vegan or you're paleo, or if you so look at
yeah,
your dish, and depending on what you put in your mouth, they're going to judge you, and they're going to think that you're a certain type, or if you
yeah,
are vegetarian versus if you're, you know, like
yeah. Like whether you're the
keto.
paleo CrossFit guy
Yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah, the
So
vegan guy.
it means just to be friendly in general, man. It just means to be a kind man. I think a lot of men judge. So whether we're talking about gay, transsexual, vegan, vegetarian, you know, it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah,
definitely one of my dues that do not
I think
judge.
it's really important to for a man, like as you kind of, or in my humble amateur opinion, like I think. like being comfortable in your own skin, yeah, for sure. But and crossing that, sort of turning that corner, like with the gay community, if you're straight, like because I ended up in the music industry, and you know there was like lots of gay people in the music industry for some reason, I don't know why, but
Hmm.
and it was awesome, you know, like some of them are good, you know, like they're kind of out of touch now, but they were good friends. Like we had a good joke, and we would like, you know, we would like poke fun at each other, and it was
Hmm.
cool. And I think it was really good to finally get to that point where I know it is just about judgment in general, but I think if you're kind of like I you know, like a typical sort of alpha male guy, and you've got to, it's a thing that you've got to walk through, and I think it's really important.
Yeah,
Was
and,
it,
I think it depends on where you live, but if you live in a big city, it's not even really an issue anymore in the sense that
no,
you know, I mean, yeah, I have so many friends that are gay, and I don't think of them as gay. They're friends. You know, I think of them as
no,
people.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like the opposite. You know, I grew up in this
yeah,
country town, like with the, you know, like with a big factory on the hill, like a big
yeah,
meatworks on the
right.
hill with the redneck bumper stickers and the. It was
There's bumper stickers that said redneck on them.
no, but we were, you know, like for sure. And so I think there's a lot of people, if you don't grow up, like, you know, like maybe California, it's probably the most liberal state there is, right? Like,
Yeah, maybe one of many. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So yeah, environment definitely plays a factor, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And Jeff, I'm not going to judge you from where you're from and how you grew up and your stickers and all that. It's all good.
yeah,
All right,
no worries.
let's move on to number 8.
Yeah,
I've got a story with this one. Do drive with courtesy, and I think
right,
a lot of women can relate to this because here's what's not fair about this. So we're just talking about men. I know women also have this too, but road rage, especially in Los Angeles, a lot of people have road rage, and a lot of men have short tempers. What's not fair is when you have someone in your vehicle, and I've been guilty of this. They no longer have control of their life. You know, you're at the steering wheel, and they can't jump out of the car. So when you are screaming and yelling or putting them in a dangerous situation, um, I mean, it's not only controlling, but you know, in a way, it's abuse. And I remember, so the story I have is I remember I forgot how I was, early 20s, and I was really into cars. I had just gotten the Mazda RX-7. It's like a 1992 or 3, and it was the twin turbo, and we had these wheels on it and exhaust, and it was like the fastest car among my friends. And then so my friend had an Acura, and my girlfriend was in the passenger seat at the time, and we rolled up to a light, and he punched it. And of course, just being, you know, ego and having a fast car, and I spent money on modifying it, I punched it too. And when we went down the ramp and onto the freeway, and we were going, you know, 90, 100, 110, and we were approaching like 130, and my girlfriend started crying and screaming, and I couldn't let go of the gas pedal. I had to hold on to it because so on my right I had, you know, putting my girlfriend into a dangerous situation. Uh, she's emotional, and she's crying, and you know, this is a traumatic experience for her. And then it was that versus my ego and wanting to win and prove that my car was faster, and I went with that. And after the race was done, um, I realized it was just adrenaline, but I realized what an idiot I was, and how wrong it is on so many levels, because she has no say, because she's trapped in a vehicle. You know what I'm saying? It's not like she could get out at any time. She doesn't have a choice to be there.
yeah. Can I ask you a question? Did you realize that?
Also, being an Asian driver, it made it a lot more scary. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
They're not, well, you're not. Hey, question was: did you reflect on this after, like literally straight after, or was this something that you look back a few years later and was like, wow, I used to do that a lot?
Yeah, a few years later, and it's one of those stories that I always remember, looking back at how wrong I was.
Yeah,
But you know, when you're 22, it's hard to even um, to think that anything you do is wrong. So you're obviously defensive, and you know, I mean, I don't know what my remark was, but it was probably like, oh, you know, you're just being a wussy or whatever.
yeah,
But in looking back, I see how immature and wrong and a boy I was as opposed to a man.
Yeah, I think I was exactly the same because, like, in that rural area where I grew up, like, we were driving it. We used to have a friend's uncle that had a wreckers, so we were buying
Hmm.
cars at like 13, 14, and we weren't allowed to drive them on the roads, but like we were rally driving them in friends'
Hmm.
farms, like when we were kids, and I can remember then when I got older, then you're driving on the streets the same way, and when you were with your buddies, it was cool, but when like chicks got in the car, they'd freak out, and
Yeah.
just I totally remember just being like, you overreact. It's fine. You're a good driver, but
Right.
really, that's irrelevant. Like it's just about taking responsibility.
And I would also put in there if you're going to get behind the wheel intoxicated. So like if you had a couple beers, or if you are, and many people are guilty of this, or if you're on drugs or something, and thinking that you're okay, and getting into a car and having your girlfriend or whoever is next to you and putting them in that situation,
Yeah, that's a big one too. I
Yeah.
can still remember being in the car with my dad and just being really really scared a few
Right.
times.
Right.
Um, he was wasted, and
Right.
it's a pretty scary real thing. Like it's not. You really do feel like you're on this roller coaster ride, except it's not going to have a happy ending.
Yeah, and when I was this is another embarrassing story. So when I was in college, I made a bet with my friend. So I was going in reverse, and my friend bet me that I couldn't drive reverse on a major highway, completely reverse. And so I did it, and I started driving reverse. So like the car in front of me was looking at me, going like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I was going through lights like that, which I think if I got pulled over, it would have been reckless driving.
Yeah, it would have been
Yeah.
more than just a ticket, that's for sure.
Right. I mean, I was alone in the car, but it's still uh, it's going to affect others if I crash. And then I had a 4x4 in high school, going even further back, and I used to go, especially if there was a woman in the car to impress them. I used to go onto people's lawns and go off-roading onto lawns and then come back and maybe knock over a mailbox or something. And and I think one of the things I did once was I would park my truck on a railroad tracks and pretend like it's not starting when the train was coming, and then
Are you
go.
serious?
Yeah, I mean I wouldn't wait too close, but like when you hear it coming. So that was, I don't know.
What's
Being like,
behind that, John?
yeah, being a boy.
Yeah. So so basically what you're saying there to summarize is that sort of the way you drive kind of like can be a reflection of how you're like taking responsibility,
Absolutely, I
your
agree.
behavior.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I would
Um,
actually agree with that.
Number nine, man, this is one of my biggest pet peeves with men.
Is
Number
it?
nine is do have a firm handshake.
Uh,
Oh
I can't
man.
I can't stand the wet fish
Oh
handshake.
dude, yeah. I can't. There's two things I can't stand. Yeah, a slippery fish when you go shake their hand and it's like this, a limp hand, and then if they can't look you in the eye, like another guy, if they're skirting or it's like weird, and uh, I just kind of know instantly if they do that what kind of guy they are.
Yeah, for me, I just get really confused. Like,
What do you mean confused?
well, I like to know where I stand with people, and I'm pretty big on first impressions. Like the first 10 seconds of meeting someone, I don't know, I feel like I don't know anything about them, but I feel like I get a sense of their character, and uh, yeah, when someone does that weird, like you go to shake their hand and they kind of like hold their hand like that.
Yeah, like they
Yeah,
want you to kiss it almost like.
yeah, and you're shaking like these three fingers of their hand, like,
Yeah, yeah,
and just
exactly.
fuck, it freaks me out. It actually makes me feel like super uncomfortable because I've got no idea like
Yeah,
where I am with that guy. It's almost like I'll think stupid stuff like, does he even want to meet me? Like, we're supposed to be. You know,
No,
he's a
I
buddy.
don't think it's that. I think it's a direct reflection on his own security within himself and his own confidence. Most guys who are confident, I mean, without being arrogant, they have a firm handshake, and they like when they want to meet you, they shake your hand like they're interested, and they look you in the eye, and it's like, you know, it's hello. It's not like it's not like a confrontational thing. It's just like it's more of a respect thing. When it's
Yeah,
like
no,
eyes are
like,
darting and what's that?
yeah. No, yeah,
When you,
it's totally. It's a sign of for me when I'm shaking someone's hand. I don't want. I'm not interested in them thinking how awesome I am. I'm just there. I'm kind of like it's my like little 5 seconds of showing up for them. I'm
Mhm.
like, hey man, like I
Right,
want to
right.
meet you.
Right,
I'm
right.
here.
It's nothing.
Like,
Yeah,
feels
and you
like
know what? And if you can't shake my hand with firmly, then fucking give me a high five. I'd rather take a high five than this here, you know, kiss my knuckles.
yeah,
So you know, if any women are watching this, I think that when if you go to shake a guy's hand and the guy's hand's all limp, and I would correct him. I would say, and kind of jokingly, like, hey, give me a real handshake so he knows. It's like, I mean, it's not their job to train us, but then he knows, like, okay, I should should have more of a firm handshake. I think if another guy says it to them, then suddenly it's a confrontation, or they feel, you know. But I think when a woman tells you that, you're going to listen. You're going to be like, oh, why, you know, maybe she's right. Maybe I need to put some more effort into this.
yeah. It'd be awkward if a guy said it for sure because they just
Yeah.
take it insult like to
Right.
be one.
We're doing good because we haven't passed any of the time. Do you have a little beeper that goes off?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think
Okay,
we've
sweet.
got like we can talk about that for another 6 minutes and still be good.
I have nothing else to say about the handshake. We got to move on. All right,
No, good. Good.
number 10, don't be a double douche. And what I mean by this is I think every guy at a certain point in their life is a douche, including me. I mean, look, I was just talking about driving on people's lawns and scaring women on railroad tracks. And so, I mean, there's, you know, at some point in your life, you're going to be a douche, you know, but like the double douche is different. And so here's my definition, or here's my definition of a douche. Any posturing behavior that stems from insecurity or ego. Examples of being a douche include, but are not limited to, purchasing a bright yellow Ferrari because you can. By the way, I love cars. I hate people that buy cars but don't drive them the way they're supposed to be driven, but because of the the social status symbol of that car, you know, like a bright yellow Ferrari, but they only drive it like 20 miles an hour. Yelling obscenities at the elderly. This is funny because I haven't read this since I wrote it. Checking yourself in the reflection, every second. Uh, Tattoos purely for aesthetics. I don't know. That might be a little judgmental of me. Crunchy hair. Not
Crunchy
con-
hair?
Crunchy hair, douche.
What's crunchy hair, bro?
like hairspray, like crunchy hair.
Oh, right, okay, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. Not controlling your alcohol. Here's a good one. Grabbing women, douche, right?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Starting fights with men. Um, Bicep curls. Fake bake. Uh, Sporting sunglasses indoors.
Yeah, it's a huge no-no.
That's a huge, yeah. Controlling your girlfriend, being the loudest voice in the room. I'm guilty of this, but it's not. I don't think it's not that I'm a douche. I'm just Korean, and I was raised with Korean people are very loud, and so my family, if it's just they're screaming at each other, and it's like we're just asking each other to pass the ketchup or something, and we're screaming like we're gonna kill each other. So I've always been extremely, extremely loud. Um, Flavored condoms. I don't know why I put that. This one's a big one. Animal cruelty. Any guy that's cruel to animals, I think, is like also like being cruel to the elderly or children. Pulling in front of a car that cut you off and slamming your brakes. That's kind of douchey. You looked very guilty there. Not tipping.
No, I'm a
Not
good tip.
okay. Tossing your keys at the valet guy instead of handing them to him or her.
No, that
Uh,
wouldn't be good.
yeah, douchey. Way too much cologne. So I think the trick to cologne is to spray it in the air and walk into it instead of
That's what
spraying it directly on you.
That's what they say, John.
Oh, do you say that too? Nice.
There's some, yeah, like make a cloud in front of you and walk through the cloud.
What about this one? Douche, demanding to see the manager of a restaurant. Demanding to speak to the manager of the restaurant. I mean, I don't know. I think it depends on the situation. I think I've done that once.
Yeah, I've had some like pretty funky restaurant experiences, but normally like they've all kind of been with my wife, and normally you just go, do you know what? Let's just get the bill, and you just take,
Yeah, yeah.
you
And,
know,
and
just,
and what I mean by that, not that you can't, but what I mean by that is like exuding your authority, going over like the server's head and just saying like, I
yeah.
want to talk to your
I know
boss.
exactly, I know exactly the person you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the
Um,
um,
back in the day, I had I'm not gonna say who, but back in the day, I had this restaurant bar club in Hollywood, and this famous director came in, and he rolled up in a Bentley with six other dudes, and the girl I had working the door didn't know who he was because he's a director, but he's A-list guy, and he wasn't used to being turned down, and because he was rolling with five guys, she turned him down, so you couldn't get in, and he took out his business card, flicked it at her, and said, "I'm gonna have your job by tomorrow," like that kind of thing, which is very douchey, and of course that didn't happen, but anyway,
yeah,
uh,
that's a double.
double douche, V-necks that meet at your belly button.
Yeah, they kind of are they big in California because they kind
Yeah,
of
you know
took
what
on
the
to like
yeah, I don't know
you.
because because of American Apparel, it's like there's a lot of people here that wear V-necks that meet at their belly button, and they're not necessarily douches. That's I mean maybe it's a style thing, I don't know. Refusing to turn down your car stereo while people are trying to have a conversation in your car.
Yeah, I've been guilty of that before, a long
Yeah.
time ago. But yeah,
Being creepy. That's kind of douchey. Bullying. Uh, Cursing and graphic sexual language in front of women. And here's the other thing about tipping: over tipping to impress. That's kind of douchey. So like making sure that someone sees that you're tipping, but over tipping, like exaggerating.
yeah.
Any more you want to
So,
add to the double douche list?
Ben, I'm just trying to think of what I've done before that would that would have been for sure that
By the way, I've probably done all of these in my life, and that's probably why I wrote them down.
yeah, yeah. If you spot it, you got it right. That's what
Yeah,
they say.
yeah.
I know I've done the car thing. I know I've done that, like put the brakes on when
Oh,
someone's
yeah.
done
Which,
that.
which which goes back to the first one, the drive with courtesy.
Yeah, yeah. The rest I think I've been pretty good at. But I just so what you're saying there, like to summarize all of them and to not be all of them, like you're saying what, like just take ownership for your behavior, like
Yeah, I'm saying be aware of how your behavior not only affects others but defines your character.
yeah, that's
I
nice.
think quote unquote boys don't put a lot of thought into their character. I think men do.
Yeah,
Like it's important to them their character to build it and to define it. So whether we're talking about a handshake or um, you know tipping for approval or demanding to see the manager, it's all reflective in your character.
yeah. No, I like that. That's because you're right. You don't when you're younger, you don't think much about your overall character
Mm-mm,
as a man.
mm-mm.
You kind of just I don't know, you just shoot it from the hip a lot of the time, aren't
Yeah,
you? Like,
absolutely. You know what you're doing is you do it to not so much for your character. You do it to impress people. You do it to show off. You do it because you want approval. You want some
yeah,
kind of yeah, yeah. So it's all ego when you're younger. Okay, let's keep you got a few more minutes. Let's keep going.
yeah, yeah. We're doing really well actually.
Oh, nice. We're doing this for time. 11. Do put thoughts into your gifts. So, I think this is big for a lot of men who buy their girlfriend things, but there's not a lot of thought into it. They're just so like whether it's Valentine's Day, birthday, whatever, and not that you have to make things from scratch and all that, but just generic. For example, the most generic gift would be like a gift card.
Yeah, I think if you really care about someone, it's cool to not only do this one, but actually want to do it. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
like you said about the Jennifer Aniston thing about the dishes. You know, like I don't want you to do the dishes. I want you to want to do the dishes.
Right,
It's like
right.
if you do something a little bit creative for your partner's birthday because you love them, you know, they really like they you know it's almost a win-win because what you get out of it's far more than the time you took for the gift anyway because she's
Mm-hmm.
like you got this happy wife or girlfriend or whatever there. Um,
And I
but
think the takeaway for the woman is going to be that, oh, this person knows me, or how much you put into that gift, how much of you put into that gift. I think that's what's important, not so much the watch or the whatever the gift
yeah,
is.
yeah, as soon as I read this, I actually remembered all the shitty gifts I've given like that.
all the gift
Like
cards.
it was like just a crap gift, yeah. And then I remembered all the awesome ones where I was like, yeah, nailed it this year, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah, one felt a lot better than the other, that's for sure.
Yeah, and
It's a
it's
good.
not and it's not a judgment on anyone's creativity. Some guys are creative, some guys are very logical. It's not about that. I think it's more about effort.
No, and I think for the guy that's not that creative, I think that when he, because the woman knows him and all guy whatever, but because they know him and they love him the way they are anyway. Even if he's not that creative, if he does a version of like his version of creative, like if he tries for his potential, in that thing, it's like there's. It's almost like it's even sweeter, because they're like, oh man, he's got no clue about this stuff, but he tried really hard, and you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. I think
Um,
guys that are less creative will get laid less, and that's fair. That's just the way it is. No, I'm kidding. You're right. I think it could be cute if they're because then you see how hard they try. So yeah, going back, I think it's about effort. Number 12.
what was
Walk
that?
with,
What was that?
what was what?
I
Oh, it's just me being silly.
like it. It's pretty funny.
Number 12 is do walk with a gorilla chest. And I don't. This doesn't mean posturing, by the way. Here, I'll read it. So men, do you slip into a room slouched and invisible, or do you enter like you own the room? Um, you will know by people's reactions, and they will either act as though you are wallpaper or notice you and instinctively step aside. The way you carry your body is an extension of how you view yourself. There is power in posture. That being said, there is also a difference between posture and posturing. One stems from certainty, the other from seeking approval. If you don't want to be noticed, posture. If you want to lead, walk with a gorilla chest. So this is more about your body language, about how you carry yourself, and I think it matches that whole handshake thing when you enter rooms like kind of invisible and slouched and you know.
Yeah, this is actually a huge one for me because
Hmm.
uh, my mum did a really good job of. She was worried that I was going to be like much tall. I ended up being 6'1", but she was worried when I was younger I was going to be much taller.
Mm-hmm.
And my granddad was quite tall and stuff, and and also I used to think, well, let's just say things could get a bit funky at home. So when she sent me out, literally every day my mum sent me out to school. Like at the door, I had my big backpack on. Your backpack's way too big for your body when you're like a little kid,
Mm-hmm.
and she would say like back straight, like shoulders back,
Oh,
chest
good.
out,
Yeah.
and and so she would set me like up like this, and then that's how I went out the door.
Right.
And I can
Right.
tell you the difference that made in my life. Like I can't imagine what I would have been like not having that. But I completely agree with this point, and I think it's important. And I think even if someone doesn't feel like it, if they just like put their back straight, shoulders back,
Yep.
chest out, and and walk it for a bit, I guarantee
I
it'll
was gonna
help
say
change.
that. Yeah, I was gonna say that if you're not feeling it, fake it till you make it. Do it until that feels comfortable and you start, that becomes feels good to you. A lot of people don't feel it and they, hunch shoulders and just they walk into a room and just disappear.
Yeah, no, for me personally, anyway, this is really important. It's I notice people that carry themselves in that way, including
Hmm.
women, not just guys. Um, and yeah, I don't want to be the guy like slinking into a room. That's for sure.
Right.
So why would you say it's important? You know, like, because someone could be, you know, someone could watch this on YouTube later and just be like, it's just posture. You know, my shoulders are a bit hunched, whatever. Like, what would you say to like a person that's
I
making?
think the reason why I don't think it's attractive, and it's not a just uh, to women. I think to guys too. It's a direct reflection on how you view yourself. You know, and
Yeah,
I think
I
if you like yourself and you want other people to like you and you want to prove that you actually exist and you have a voice, then you're gonna walk up straight. You know, with the girl, it's just you're not. Now, I'm not saying you're to posture. I'm not saying to like clear chairs and make sure everyone sees you. Yeah, that's different. That's going the other way. But just a slouchy, slippery, and then you add that with a weak, wet handshake, and you can already know what kind of person that guy is.
yeah.
So. And I understand that that sometimes it takes time, and not everyone, even myself, sometimes I'm not, I don't feel confident on it. But just overall, like cumulatively, um, walking with certainty.
Yeah, I
And
know.
yeah,
That one's a huge one for me. I think it's so important for everyone, and it's like it's not only better for you health-wise because you can have good posture, and which is I think why my mum started making me do that in the first place. But
hmm
the ripple effect from from walking that way, you just feel like more comfortable in your own skin, so you feel more empowered.
mm,
You don't feel like you're more powerful than others. You just feel empowered in yourself.
right,
You know,
right,
it's a
and
big
and
difference between.
yeah, and so now we're talking about energy and the energy that you contribute to the room or the world. And if you're sunken, like you're basically sucking in energy, and if you're up and you are have a voice, then you're giving good energy out there, and that stuff is contagious.
Just made me sit up there and just check my posture.
um, yeah, it doesn't count when you're sitting down, because if it does, then this is exactly how. So let's end with this one, which is kind of I don't know. Number 13, don't fart in front of your girlfriend and wife.
We
Uh,
can't end on this one, man. I'm not ending on farting.
why not? Why not? Well, this one's interesting because I actually know a lot of couples that do and that don't mind, and I get it. And if it works for you, so be it. But I think there's a line um, that you just can't cross. So like I think there's other couples that like one's going to the bathroom while the other one's showering, or one's uh, and I don't know. There's certain things that you just have to do privately, and this can be. I understand sometimes it can be funny, but I don't know. I've never really been a fan of it, unless it's an on accident or if you're sleeping. It's different. It happens.
Yeah, I think I think the showering thing. Like, I think the number ones are okay. Like, if I'm having a
Yeah.
shower.
Well, yeah, I meant to. Yeah, the number ones are okay, of course. No, but
Uh,
like I'm talking about the yeah. That's
yeah, I don't. Do you know what? Like, I've never really. I've tried up until I read your book. I had tried not to put too much thought into it, you know. But
right.
it's almost like now I've read the book. I'm like, oh, I actually wouldn't mind if a girl never farted around me again, which is ridiculous, right? Because it's like it's going to happen.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think it's cute. I think it's adorable because you love the person or you care about the person. But I'm talking about if it's like, hey, look at me, and you raise your leg, and it's that kind of stuff. Not if
yeah,
it's
no,
once in a while, whatever.
no. I think I don't know if I'd be that stoked to be with a chick that'd be like, morning, like.
Yeah, if you're creating a song with your ass, I don't know, it doesn't. Um, okay, then let's end with this one. The next one, number 14, do sweat daily. What do you think of this?
Yeah, it's
Not
got
from
to be.
anxiety. This is from being physical.
Oh, not from anxiety.
No,
Oh
no.
shit.
I
Um,
actually most of my life I haven't, and then I started CrossFit and been kind of rewired and realized the importance of fitness in the sense that not only does it elevate mood and make you feel better about yourself and raise self-esteem, but uh, I think every day, and it doesn't have to be that. It could be yoga, it could be surfing, it could be whatever your thing is, and also to switch up activities, just to be active, instead of the because we're in capsules from the time we wake up. We get into our car, then we're in traffic, then we go into an elevator, then we sit at a cubicle, get back into our car. Back in the day we used to run and hunt and jump and all this stuff, and it's I don't know, we don't do that anymore. I mean, I think we're kind of coming back around, and we are now starting to.
Yeah, I think it's super important for every guy, and I just want to mention the guys that maybe feel like they're not sporty or they're not athletic, or you know what, like screw it, just don't, just forget about that, and just get your sweat on, because like I kind of like mum put me in every sport, and I've grown up playing sport my whole life, and like sweating for me, like I'm good at it, like I can sweat, by the way, but I love my training, but I do know I've met throughout my life a lot of guys that didn't grow up the way I grew up, with a mum dropping them off at all different trainings and all this sort of stuff, and they kind of like disconnect themselves from, disassociate themselves from, that sort of like that, tribal, like getting your sweat on, like, or team environment, or even if you're training, and that's for me it comes naturally and I know it, but I would say to someone that maybe like reads your book or watches this, that thinks like, that doesn't really apply to me, like I'm kind of like a geek, like I don't, just bullshit, just like get your sweat on and see how you feel after it. And I guarantee if you can't sit there and go, because I've seen guys overweight getting themselves back in shape, or the full mass nerds I've trained with them now as I'm older, and I've seen them after and they're just like pumped, testosterone and everything, you're high-fiving and shit. And, I think it's really important, but also not to just look at yourself if you're not this typical jock-looking guy or whatever, and go, it's not for me. Like, just go get your freaking sweat on anyway, and you'll be stoked,
Yeah, and I don't think you don't have to want to be an athlete. It's more about this relationship with yourself, and always challenging yourself.
Exactly, totally. It's got nothing to do with that. Yeah. Right. It's a pure. Yeah, your exercise is your exercise. It doesn't matter if freaking like tall, short. I couldn't give a shit. Like fat, skinny. Like eat good food, sweat daily. You'll feel awesome for it.
Yeah, I always say this. I always say it's all about your state, not your circumstances. And it's you could bring science into the picture, or you could bring whatever. It doesn't matter. Exercise or sweating daily directly affects your state, your mood. Confidence, security.
And put good food in your body too with that one.
Oh yeah, that's a whole different topic, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, man. That was easy. That was good. I think when we're done with this, we're gonna
like 10 minutes every time. That was good.
Oh, nice, awesome. Not a lot of bird walking.
No. What's the next one for next week? What have we got to do?
I don't know, but I was gonna say boys bird walk, and men keep things under 10 minutes. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, so for next week.
Yeah.
Next week we're going to be on 15 and do display physical affection, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, cool. That's a nice one to start next week.
All right,
nice.
Jeff, have a good one. Thanks. I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Take care.
Thanks
Bye.
for that. Bye.